Then Georgia bold, italic, and regular would be your fonts. An individual element, most commonly a single letter, number or punctuation mark, is a character. And these fonts come with different weight, height, and sizes. This refers to the thickness, length, and overall size of typeface. You can experiment with different weights and sizes and use the variations judiciously on your interface to break the monotony on long passages of text or to direct attention to specific elements. So if we have fonts in same sizes, like we have in different books, it won't appeal to the users because as we know that most of the users that come to website or a mobile application, they don't spend much time reading your text. So you have to quickly give them the message that you want to give. So in that case, we have to use good typefaces and we have to use this weight, height, and different hierarchies of text like headings, paragraphs, and so on to improve the readability and get most of the clients to read your content in your application. Letter spacing or tracking, the distance between the widest point of each character. Tracking specifically refers to the uniform increase or decrease in the horizontal space between characters. I think I discussed it last week. If you follow the recording, I did it on Figma as well. I showed you how to add kerneling, how to add horizontal space in these fonts by using Figma tools. Alignment refers to how text is positioned. There are four main alignments: left, right, centered, and justified. In Figma, we have three here. If we want to go to justify, we have to click on more button and then go inside and change the alignment of these fonts. And here's where we stopped last week. Now I'm going to discuss about typographic principles. Here's the number one principle: keep the number of fonts used at a minimum. Using more than three different fonts makes the website look unstructured and unprofessional. Keep in mind that too many type sizes and styles at once can also wreck any layout. So if you are using typefaces in your website or a mobile application, you have to be careful. You should ideally use uh, one or two typefaces, but if you are really want to use more typefaces, you can use maximum of three. But those three typefaces have to complement with each other, have to match. Otherwise, it will break your design. As well as if you are using Google font or any other font content delivery network, we call it CDN. If you are using more typefaces, the speed of your website will affect negatively as well. So it is a good practice in a speed wise as well as a design wise to use a minimum number of matching fonts to do your layout. Give me a second. Give me 1 minute. We were talking about typography principles and how to use minimum typefaces and make your UI. That is what we're discussing. So here we talk about try to use standard fonts. Fonts embedded in services like Google Fonts or Web Typekit. Google Fonts is free and open source. And for the Typekit, you have to get the subscription from them. Have a lot of interesting fonts that can give your design something new, fresh, and unexpected. So what can go wrong? So if you are designing for web or a mobile application, I always encourage you to use Google Fonts or Typekit if you have a license, because those are content delivery networks. So the fonts will load quickly rather than self-hosting your fonts in your server. These CDNs will give you speed and so many options as well. So you can use CDNs such as Google to load your fonts first before loading the website, so the typographic glitches won't be there. And there are so many options. If you search on Google, when they give you the script to put on your CSS file, they have mentioned so many options: how to import, how to load these fonts. Should we pre-connect or pre-fetch? There are so many options. I invite you to go to Google Docs and experiment. That is the plus advantage of using Google Fonts or Typekit. So if you are self-hosting, you have to deal with the server speeds. You have to buy a CDN and everything. But if you are using Google Fonts, it is also available in Figma and any other design tool. If you need to install any customized font, you have to download the Figma application to your computer, and then you have to install the fonts. And then again, when we hosting in a server, we have to again upload the font to the server, and so much has. So you can use Google Fonts easily. Actually, this approach has one serious problem. Interesting fonts can distract users from reading. Users can spend time thinking about the fonts that designers use rather than reading the text. So even if you are using Google Fonts, you have to be very careful. You have to make like, if your main purpose of your website is giving information to the users to read your content, you have to maintain good balance between your headings and the paragraphs you choose, and you have to get a good readable font. So when we are selecting a font, most of these nimbly coming fonts such as Inter, Roboto, those are very readable fonts. So you have to make sure, if your website is content rich, you want your users to read your content, you have to use like very readable font rather than using something interesting or distract your users. Limit line length. Having a right amount of characters on each line is key to the readability of your text. It shouldn't be your design that dictates the width of your text. It should also be a matter of legibility. So you have to make sure that your font spread in a limited size of their screen. For example, if you have a very long text uh, spreading in whole screen, it won't be easier to read for your users. So you have to maintain the limit the length as well. So in Figma, what you can do is you can, in here we have uh, auto width, auto height, and also fixed size. So we can use auto height and auto width to make sure that your font is aligned within the given division or a frame. So make sure to do that as well. So don't go far in your horizontal axis or even the vertical axis as well, XY axis. So it will be harder for users to read your font if it is too lengthy. You should have around 60 characters per line if you want a good reading experience. Having the right amount of characters on each line is key to the readability of your text. So in here we are discussing for the one line in x-axis, you should maintain the 60 character limit. So as we know that most of us have a very limited amount of memory, especially with the computers and the mobile phones. our attention span is very small these days. So you always have to maintain a limited number of text within the x-axis horizontally. Because most of us can only remember, uh, let's say, 7 words per, per second, like when we are reading. So uh, if we can give it to our users with these chunks of 6 7 words, they will remember what they read. Otherwise they won't remember, so they can't follow the sentence and the paragraph as they reading forward. Here we have different length of text comparing to the screen size. So this is 40 and 60 and 90, as you can see in the screen. Below 40 is too narrow. Ideally, it should be 40 and 60. So ideal range is 40 and 60. There are no, so this is dummy text I have put to discuss. This is too wide also. As you can see, when you are referencing this text, this middle one is the most readable one. Here you have to stop reading by here, and again you have to read the second paragraph. But if you can give something like this, characters between 40 and 60, it will improve the readability of your application, and it will help users as well. For mobile devices, you should go for 30 to 40 characters per line. So not like desktop, we have very limited real estate in mobile uh, fonts, especially when we are using it in a portrait mode. So in that case, we only have to give them 30 to 40 characters per line. Below is an example of two sides viewed on a mobile device. The first one uses 50 to 75 characters. So this is not mobile optimized. As you can see, there's a lot of free area that left, that they can put this text on right hand side as well, but they decided to go with an advertisement. So this one has very less readability, but the right hand side, the Washington Post website, it is very readable. So that is, um, first one uses 50 to 75 characters per line. Optimum number of characters per line for print and desktop. So this is, as I said, not more mobile friendly or mobile optimized version of a website. While the second one uses the optimal 30 to 40 characters. So you don't have to worry much about this character limitation if you are using a wire like a framework such as Tailwind or Bootstrap or anything. They will wrap your text to match the different screen sizes. They have like media queries for desktop, laptop sizes, as well as tab and also mobile devices. So they will make it responsive based on the screen size that you are watching, like viewing your website or a mobile application. Choose a typeface that works well in various sizes. So let's pause for a bit and let me know if you have any questions up until now, even from the last lecture and what we have discussed today. You can ask any questions if you have. You can send a message as well if there's anything unclear, and if you want me to clarify anything, you can send a message even during the lecture. In here, we are talking about choosing a typeface that works well in various sizes. Users will access your site from devices with different screen sizes and resolutions. Most user interfaces require text elements of various sizes, button, field labels, section headers, etc. So if you go to a website, it as you can see, most of the websites nowadays have different typefaces for different screens. For example, in the desktop or a laptop size, it has a bigger typeface for heading 1 or any headings. And when comparing to mobile screen, it will be very small. So they are taking the aspect ratio as well as the uh, pixels within the screen and uh, create media queries to align the adjust and align the font size accordingly, according to the screen size that users are reading. It's important to choose a typeface that works well in multiple sizes and weights to maintain readability and usability in every size. So if you go to Figma, and this is the font I have selected, Inter. So in Inter, we have uh, all these sizes. We have thin, extra light, regular, medium, semi-bold, bold, extra bold, black. So designer can use whatever the thickness that he wants. For example, he can use bold font for the heading, and he can use medium or regular font for the body text. So it will improve the readability of your users, as well as it give is like symmetrical design in your designs as well. And even for the elements such as button fields, in form fields such as text boxes or select boxes, you can use this hierarchy of text sizes as well as different weights of text, typography, and also for the components. It's important to choose a typeface that works well in multiple sizes and weights to maintain readability and usability in every size. So again, when we are considering a typeface, we have to think about multiple sizes and weights to maintain the readability and usability of the every size. So last week I introduced you to that tool, typeface checker, and even in Google you can do this. You can select the base font size, and it will give you the font size for others. Like if you select the font size 12 SP, it will give you font sizes for the H1, H2 display sizes and up to H6, and also small sizes, captions, and button sizes as well. So it will be easier for you to do your designs without thinking about the font sizes and the readability. So all those tools that I'm mentioning, I have already added them to Google Classroom as well. So if you are following, you can access to them and do your designs easily as well. Here another principle we using typography. Avoid all caps. All cap text, meaning text with all letters capitalized, is fine in contexts that don't involve reading, such as acronyms or logos. But when your message involving reading, don't force your users to read all caps text. So this is another thing that if you want to improve the readability, because most of us used to reading when we are reading a book or anything, we used to read like a sentence case or a lowercase letters. So if you are putting something in all caps, especially a call to action button or a heading or anything, it is really hard for users to read it. Even if you think that it will give the solid or bold look, it won't actually. It will decrease the readability, but if you are using sentence case or a lowercase letters, it will easy to eye and users will read it more often than all caps letters. All capital print greatly retards the speed of scanning and reading in comparison with lowercase type. So as I mentioned, it is good to use uh, lowercase type uh, if you need your users to read your content. So if you even by reading this, it is really hard for you to read, like when comparing to a lowercase or a sentence case paragraph. Even it has a bold look, it is in the readability wise, it is very negatively affected your interface. Don't minimize spacing between lines. In typography, we have a special term for the spacing between two lines of text, leading or line height. So in here, we have line height. So if I put auto here, it will give the automatic value, the optimum value for this. So, but if we put 10, so it is really hard to read. So if I even put 14 or something, even though it takes a little less space in y-axis, it is still hard to read. So you in Figma, you always have to put it as auto unless if you have a special requirement to like reduce the space or maximize the uh, line height of each text. By increasing the leading, you increase the vertical white space between lines of text, generally improving readability in exchange for screen real estate. So even if you like, if you use auto, it will give you the ideal size for the readability. But if you want it to be more readable, so as long as you change this value, like change the line height value to higher number, it will improve the readability. But you have to give up on your screen size, so you won't be able to put other important content if you do so. So it is a good practice to use auto value if you are using Figma, like this. So it is readable as well as it won't take much of your real estate of your mobile or any device you are using. As a rule, leading should be around 30%, more than the character height for good readability. So if we, here we have in auto 19. So this is not a percentage. This is a scale that Figma is using. So if you give something around 30, it will be something like this. So it is very readable. You can easily read without any issue, but you have to like sacrifice your screen size, screen space. So you have to consider that as well. So in the application or a design, it is depending on the scenario and the design that you do. So you can either go for the auto for the line height, or you can increase it as you want. So this is good. This is, as I mentioned, too much space, even it is very readable, and this is too tight. So users will uh, won't be able to read this with ease. This one is good. Something in between these two is really good. Properly using white space between paragraphs has been proven to increase comprehension up to 20%, as pointed out by Dmitry Fadiev. So he's another UI designer. So properly using white space between paragraphs has proven that. So the when comparing paragraphs with different line heights, properly uh, white-spaced paragraphs have a readability and comprehension up to 20% when comparing to others. So you have to consider that as well. The skill of using white space lies in providing your users with a digestible amount of content, then stripping away extraneous details. So as I mentioned earlier, most of users have a very limited cognitive ability to remember what you already read. So if we give them the information in digestible chunks, they will be able to remember what they already read. So they can read the paragraph, like they can complete to read the paragraph, and they can get the idea what it is saying. If you're giving them too much information or less white space and too much white space, they won't be able to focus or keep in mind what they already read. So you have to consider those factors as well when selecting and doing your typography. So as you can see in left hand side, it is really hard to read and grasp what is it saying. So even though it is a lorem ipsum text, if you try to read it, it is really hard when comparing to one on the right hand side. So the next one, make sure you have sufficient color contrast. So In the example above, these lines of text do not meet color contrast ratio recommendations and are difficult to read against their background colors. So the first one, the white color background, the lighter gray text, it is very hard to read. And even in the dark color background, they are using the same color font. It is also very hard to read. So you have to go for the recommended contrast ratio when you're choosing foreground and foreground color for text as well as the background color for your design. So I introduced you few tools last week. Those are in Google Classroom as well, where you can compare uh, contrast ratios of your elements, such as fonts or a background. There are tools in Figma as well. You can do the same thing. They will give you the recommendations for your contrast ratio for your fonts and buttons and every element you use in your application. So when comparing to this image, you can clearly see that there's a readability and the contrast uh, in this text and the background color. These lines of text meet the contrast ratio recommendations and are easy to read against their background colors. So make sure your website content is readable as well. So in here, okay. Wordmark is a website. It will give you, like, if you enter what is your website category. For example, let's say you are designing a website for a corporate people. So if you enter their domain like corporate or bank or healthcare or anything, they will give that most used fonts for these kind of users. So you can choose your font easily uh, by using tools such as Wordmark as well. Is there any questions up until now? You can ask. Okay, now let's talk about branding guidelines versus style guide. Branding guidelines are clearly defined rules and standards that communicate how your brand should be represented to the world. Brand guidelines help businesses ensure consistency and demonstrate what the company is, what it does, and what it stands for. Think of it like a brand rule book that centralizes the overall look and feel of your brand identity. So actually every brand, every recognized brand have a branding guideline. If you Google for something like Apple branding guideline, Microsoft or any other company, even Coca-Cola or any other company, they have a PDF or a separate web page how users or advertisers should use their brand, like especially logo, the icon mark. Uh, so those standards, the advertisers and everyone should follow. So if you Google something like, let's say, Apple branding guidelines, you will be able to see how they present, how to use their logo, what are the characters, what are the typefaces that you should use, what are the things that you should do not do with their logos. You can't scale their logo this much. This is the minimum width and height we should consider when you are using a logo. So those things you have to consider when referring to branding guidelines or doing a design for a particular established brand.
So, Savinda, sorry to
Yeah,
disturb.
go
Uh,
ahead.
I can share a band guideline if you want.
Yeah, please go ahead.
You want me to share the screen or shall I
Yeah,
put it?
share your screen. It will be easier.
Give me a second. Mhm. Mm, Yeah, I'm sharing my screen now. So it's not allowing me to.
Okay, I
I
have given you permission. That's
uh,
it.
I have no idea. I'm trying to share my screen. Multiple participant. Okay.
Yeah, we can see your screen now.
Yeah. So this is one of the brand guidelines that I did
Okay.
recently, actually, for a company called Data Failover.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the introduction, like what you were saying, how to use the guideline, how to use the logo,
Yeah.
all this, the minimum spacing, the grid of the logo,
Mm-hmm.
colors of the logo in all the swatches, and then how not to use,
Yeah.
and then the typography of the primary typography and the secondary typography, and then the imagery, what kind of images
Yeah.
styles you can use, and then their corporate literature, all the iconographies that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
If any of our participants want, I can share this with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. You can share it in Zoom chat as well. Let me take the screen control. One
Yeah, I'll,
second.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Yazir. So it was really helpful. So as you saw that branding guideline is a documentation in that case. So there are other companies that have websites, complete web pages for that as well. When we compare like websites such as Apple or Google, they have whole websites regarding how to use their logo and everything that Yasir showed just now. And when we have a style guide, it is something different. A style guide is a document that a UX designer creates to document a growing and ever evolving set of design guidelines that arise from a design process. So a style guide is when comparing to branding guideline. Branding guideline, we have all these things like how to use their logo, how to use typography, what to avoid, and how to use different backgrounds, what are the versions of logo, what are the minimum sizes, minimum gaps between the logo mark and the text. So all things will be there in the branding guideline. But in style guide, if I show you one style guide, let me open one. Okay, style guide or a design system is something different. In Figma, you can create a style guide. As I mentioned in the first session, we follow atomic design. So we will first create most basic components such as logos, app icons, all the icons and their light and dark versions, and also these notifications and different icons we are using in our application with all the colors and the images we are using. So all these are there. It's like a library. Whenever we need one of those basic elements to create our molecules, we call them, we can quickly go to our assets and grab them here and do our design. So it will improve the consistency. Let's say now two more designers are doing the same design with you in a shared project. So if you don't have this kind of a set of primary design uh, tools such as these icons and logos in place, everyone have to do their designs uh, starting over, like they have to do from the beginning. But if you have these atoms and a style guide in place, it will be easier for everyone in the design team to follow the same design. So design will be consistent and also it will be easier to use. Another advantage is when the developer, when they trying to code your design, they will be easily they will be able to just click on these and grab the code for whatever the platform they are using. So if you install these plugins, you can select if you are using uh, React or Angular, it will give you different components in different JavaScript or TypeScript code. So you can easily implement these as well. So that is something we should follow when we are doing a style guide, especially for the digital application. A style guide is a document that user UX designer creates to document a growing and ever evolving set of guidelines that arise from the design process. So we first in the first week we discussed that the UX design process is not a like linear process. We have to go back and forth. We have to iterate. We have to get feedback from our users as well as clients or stakeholders. So it is design is evolving. It is not a linear process. So you have to do changes back and forth. So in that case, when we have this kind of a style guide, we can just do changes in the basic level. So it will represent in all our screens as well. So let's say, for example, I have, uh, let's switch off this. And switch off these as well for a while. And components I have here are these credit card and also these two boxes, text box and a button. So if I change the button from here in our molecules, so we can easily change the buttons from here. So it will represent, it will change all its instances in our whole design. So it will be easy. Otherwise, users have to select one by one and do the changes. So maintaining these kind of a setup will make the life easier for UX designer and UA designer as well as everyone involving in the project, developers, stakeholders, and everyone. Why is it important for any product? As I mentioned, it maintains the consistency and defining standard and usage. It will be easier for the front-end developers to write their CSS and HTML by referencing all the important information and data, find hex codes for colors easily, reuse UI components, SVG files, and quickly find and extract any other asset that they may required. So as I showed to you earlier, so if we go to this particular layout, and I'm going to hide this and go to developer tools, or even if we stay here and select one of these, so the designers can easily grab the code by clicking on this and inspect. So you can see that it shows how many border, how much padding it has, weight and height. These are the colors it uses. And if we select the font, it will show the display is flex or a grid or whatever. And all the CSS classes we can copy from Figma itself. So designer don't have, like developer don't have to uh, think and do the design. He can grab the code from Figma itself. And these are all like reusable components. So he can apply all these styles to other components as well. So that is uh, really important in rapid prototype or rapid website development or rapid software development. So the developers can easily grab the code and do their reusable components they can use in their applications or a website. It will help the UX designers to craft responsive layout that fit the brand style. So apart from this, the example I showed you is a mobile application. So even for the website or where we have responsive layout design, if you have all your responsive buttons here. So let's say I have main buttons here. Let's say these are only for uh, desktop applications. So I have another set of buttons for the mobile application. Let's say these are for the mobile application. So they can easily select what are the buttons that they should use for desktop and what are the buttons they should use for mobile, because in website we can give all the text, like it has more real estate for desktop screens. But in mobile, we are dealing with very limited size of a screen. So your data or what you try to represent give an idea to user without using much screen size. So in that case, you have to design those in your components as well. And then the social media managers can consult the document to use the same exact typeface, color palette, and graphic assets to create a consistent social media feed. So even if you do your like social assets or a style guide, most of the time the companies, the internal uh, staff or a very different agency will run your social media campaigns. So every time you do a design or uh, do a new website, new revamped website or a new website from a scratch, you always have to give them this kind of a style guide for them to follow. So they can share this with their brand like advertisers as well as social media managers. So they can also maintain the same consistency for their elements that they are advertising. For the images, for the text, they can follow same typography. For the call to action buttons, they can use same colors and same text and same components. So that consistency is a key. So these are some UX laws. So if you have any questions up until now, you can send a message on group chat. Uh, so number one, the collection of laws or design standards that designers must take into account when thinking and improving the user experience design. Those are the UX laws. We have few described here. There are quite a few actually. I have added a few of those in the presentation. If you Google for UX laws, you can find more with like complete websites dedicated to UX laws as well. I will share some links on Google Classroom. Number one is Hicks law. Hicks law states that users spend more time making a decision based on the number and complexity of choices. So it basically says more choices you given, more complex it will get for the users. So on on the opposite side, it means that if you give very less choices for users, they will choose uh, easily. So for example, let's say uh, it is one experience we got. So in a checkout page of one of our applications, we the client asked us to give so many options. For example, they asked us to put PayPal, PayPal card, and also Venmo, and authorize.net, and Stripe, and so many options. So the users come to checkout page and they get confused. What is the best one I should choose? What is the best payment gateway? What is the most trustworthy? So we had like when we compare our screen recordings with the other layout, we have only had PayPal involved. Most of the users convert in that second layout rather than when the layout we gave them more choices. So if you give them more choices, they will get confused because they have to make a decision. So most of the users don't like to make decisions. So making decisions takes time. So if you have to make sure that you streamline the user experience, that they don't have to think much about making a decision and they can quickly achieve their goals without any roadblocks or design design issues. The more choices you present your users with, the longer it will take them to reach a decision. So, like I mentioned, if you have multiple tasks to complete within a limited one, you will take more time making a decision compared to if you have only two tasks to complete. So, like we discussed in our first session, actually, we discussed about banking applications. What are the user flows that this banking application has? User flows, FLAW flows. So we discussed how one banking application is so user friendly and why others don't. Especially the government banks, their mobile applications are very hard to use. We can't send money without adding all the information. Even for the mobile service providers, we discuss dialogue application is really hard to use because most of the time you go there to pay your bill really quickly or add a data add-on really quickly, but it takes a lot of time and it won't even do the job sometimes. So if you give users multiple tasks or very hard to use user flows, they have to make a decision. The user flow is not streamlined. So it is really hard and it is a bad user experience for users. So if these applications are streamlined, for example, if they understand what their users need to do. For example, let's say dialog application, the users only need to check their data balance or they just want to do the bill payment. So if they consider this, the application developers or designers will think about their users and make that user flow easy to follow, rather than they have to load the website and add the phone number again and add the amount and everything. So we can automatically fill those things and make the life of users easier. Here, reduce the number one option in Hicks law, reduce the options for time critical task. So the more choices you give your user, the longer it takes for them to make a decision. So if we ask this kind of a question, and in the first layout, we have given them a drop down and so many options to choose from. In the right hand side, we have radio buttons. There are only four options. So when comparing these two, most of the users prefer the one with the green color tick because it has less option and it is easy to follow as well. Otherwise, users have to spend so much time scrolling through and also like deciding what they exactly feel. Are they feeling amazing or awesome or great? What is the difference between these three? In here, we have a clear difference, awesome or good, not so good or bad. So they can easily select what they feel. And in here, the menu items, we have the menu item name, image, a price, as well as some uh, description about it, and even for the other items as well. But in here we have add to cart button, so users can easily uh, add whatever they want to the cart here. But in the menu, uh, you have to categorize. So these are some vegan items. So if you give more choices, in here we have 12 menu items, but we only display 4 of them. But it is really hard to choose. That is why the categorization is also important in a website with for a restaurant or anything. If you categorize your menu items based on, let's say, vegan, and also there's we can use one category to uh, categorize the flavor, chocolate or whatever. So it will give users more uh, independence to make their decisions without taking much time to read and decide what they want. Because users don't like to spend much time on your website. They quickly want to do whatever they want to do and continue their daily life. So you have to maintain uh, good user experience and allow them to do their task easily without spending much time. So in Flipkart or even Amazon, or if you go to AliExpress or any other website, now we have add to cart and buy now options in all these. So first it was introduced by Amazon and eBay as well. So now nowadays almost every website, every uh, e-commerce website has these buttons and options as well. In Quora, we have most of the mobile applications. Now we have continue with Google and continue with Facebook or Apple ID uh, alternative to login with email as well. So because we already have profile, if you already have profiles in Google or Facebook, like most of us do, it will ease the process of signing up like again. So you can use the same name, you can use the same profile picture and like sync your social media profiles and sign up to different platforms. Break down complex processes into smaller steps. So in here we have checkout page. So as you can see, this particular e-commerce website, it first gave users to select what the product is. You can see from these breadcrumb buttons, and then it asks for users information where the user is now in the current step. So if they enter the information, it will go to the shipping. So they have to enter the shipping details as well in here. And finally, the payment, final step. So in here also, step 1 is basic details, step 2, company details, subscription plan selection, and finally, they have to pay. So if you can give them a step process like this, it will make them make their life easier actually. So if you give all these things in one form, they might think, oh, I have to fill so many things, I won't be able to do this. So it must be so much load for uh, them to think about. So it will increase their cognitive load as well. So it will like negatively affect your user flow and their decision making as well. So if you want more conversions of your customers or whatever the design you do, always follow these steps for users to easily complete their task one by one with digestible chunks rather than showing them the complete design in one page. As I mentioned, the categorized choices to make them easier to search for and identify in Netflix or in here we have Spotify. So you can easily uh, browse different categories of musics, or they also recommend you based on what you already watch. So it is really good thing. Actually, in Amazon or any other uh, e-commerce platform, they also have these kind of recommendations and categorization. So when they buy when you buy a product from their store, they will in the checkout page they display bought together or recommended buying or anything like that. So it will help users to buy things that they want easily without even searching for it. And categorization is also really important if you have many choices, many, even for the restaurant, if you have many choices in your many varieties, categorization is really important. So it will allow users to go to their end goal really quickly. Highlight recommended options. So in here, this pop-up, this is GDPR cookie policy pop-up. So if you allow users, if you highlight what users should select, most of the time they will click on the highlighted button rather than this no thanks button. On right hand side as well. So in here we have recommended options. In here also, when they search for flights, we show them the recommended results, and uh, there are other results as well. When we scroll down, we display all the results, but in here we show them the recommended results. So it will be easier for them to quickly click on that and do their payment and move on to uh, the other task that they were doing. Number one was Hicks law. This is Fitts law. Fitts law states that the larger the distance and smaller the size of target, the longer it will take. According to this law, fast movement and smaller targets result in greater error rates due to speed accuracy trade-off. So the smaller your target area is, the longer it takes the user to perform the action based on the distance size ratio. So as you can see in the left hand side image, we have very small call to action button. So users won't be able to click on that. So it won't get their attention in the first glance, and also it is really hard to uh, click on them as well. But when comparing to that, on the right hand side, we have clearly labeled and clearly distinguishable buttons on right hand side layout, so users can perform their actions easily without thinking about where to click or anything like that. So it is really important to give your users, especially when you are designing for mobile applications, you have to think about their thumb size. Most of the users tapping or clicking buttons in your layout with their thumb. So it should be more than their thumb. So for example, if you are giving them a button, it should be easy to navigate as well. So if you take a mobile screen, let's say this is a mobile screen, so easy to navigatable areas is this, like right hand side button. So if you put a button here on left hand side button, they won't be able to press it with one hand. They have to take the phone to another hand and press it. So you have to consider those as well. So this is the most reachable area with one hand if you are using a mobile phone. So you can read articles and you can do use experiment using A/B testing and select what is the most effective, most productive areas of your screen as well. We use technologies like heat maps and screen recordings to see what are the like most interactive areas in our screen. So in here, as I mentioned, creating larger targets. So these buttons are larger when comparing to these small buttons, and increase the surface area of call to actions button. So in here we have like text and image on top, but we have a contrasting area for our call to action buttons as well. Minimize movement. So if you are using so much animation and so much transitions in your layout, it is also affecting the user experience negatively. So make sure you only have like little bit of animations or micro interactions in your design, just to keep your users delighted, but not to distract their user flow. Make some actions harder than others. For example, let's say in Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or any other application, if you want to deactivate or delete your account, you have to go through few steps. For example, you have to go to settings and then you have to go to your account. And again, you in the account, you have to uh, go to the deactivate account. And even in the deactivation, they will ask you to put your email address. And even for in LinkedIn, I think they are asking for the confirmation code they're sending to your email as well. So that action is harder than others. So they don't want you to go from the application. That is why those actions are really harder. And also those are like dangerous applications. Let's say we have delete our account button right next to the profile. So users might accidentally click on that button, even they don't want to delete their account. So to avoid those and also for users to stay in their platform, most of the companies make some actions harder than others. So in here we have the sign up pop-up. It has larger target area even for the text buttons and mobile number or sign up, and it has this login button if you already have an account. Placing commonly used functions together reduces the cursor movement. So in order to reduce the cursor movement in Figma, they have like commonly used buttons uh, next to each other and categorize them nicely. So even not only in Figma, if you go to Photoshop or Adobe UX or Sketch, any other application, it is you can easily navigate without moving your mouse much and do your task easily without trying to find the icons in the interface. This is a screenshot I got from TopTal. So in here, uh, if user move on to like hovering over certain button, you can give a micro interaction or a transition to show them, like increase the color or zoom it little bit. Uh, you can give them, notify them that you are trying to perform some action. So you are in the right spot. So that is also there. To prevent frequent accidental shutdowns on their phones, Apple makes users swipe a slider to turn off their phone. So, and the rescind a power off, all users have to do is a press and cancel button. So in even for when you're getting a phone call, most of the time you don't, if you just click on the call icon, it won't accept the call because otherwise, if the phone is in your pocket, it will accept the call automatically. So users have to perform an action. You have to drag the call button to somewhere to accept the phone call. So that is also one action that Android and other companies take to avoid these frequent accidental actions that users perform. The cancel button's consequence doesn't compare to turning the phone off. So Apple makes it easier to accidentally press it. Give me 1 minute. Okay. This is fit slow for mobile devices. So as you can see on the left, if the person take holding his phone with left hand, the natural area for his thumb is highlighted in green, and they have to stretch to reach the light blue path. And also, it is really hard to go to the upper top, like top right hand side. And if they are using their phone with both hands, these are natural areas, and uh, these top sides are really hard to reach areas. And even for the right hand, it is opposite for the left hand. It is really hard to reach this corner when comparing to the natural side of this. That is Fitts law. Now this is Jacob's law. Jacob's law states that when users are used to using a product, then users build their expectations around one familiar product that appears similar. Because users spend most of their time on other sites, they expect your site to work in the same way as other sites they are already visited. So for instance, think of how Amazon, uh, Myntra, and most of the e-commerce sites behave. They follow similar patterns, similar checkout processes. Most of the mental models are almost same. This way, user will focus on their task rather than learning new models. So if you are designing an application, let's say e-commerce application or a banking application, this is where competitor analysis is really helpful. So if you analyze your competitors, how they design their checkout pages, how they design their user flows, so you always have to follow the same user flows or same uh, like component placement, because users are so used to those applications. When they come to your website, they expect your website to behave the same way. So if there's something new to learn for them, so let's say you put payout buttons or checkout buttons in different process. You have like following different steps. You first ask them to enter shipping details, or before asking for personal details. So those things, you should always follow the standard. The standard was set like already set by the competitors. So you always have to follow the standard and give them some familiar experience, because all of the users are not only using your website or the application. They are already using and familiar with some other applications, and they have certain mental models. This is how this page should work. So for example, let's say e-commerce website. They expect a search bar where they can search something, and after searching, they expect add to cart button, and after adding to cart, they go to cart and check out. So that user flow, that mental model should be there. So if you are not doing that, users will distract, and it will uh, negatively affect your conversion rate as well, because users expecting something and you are giving something else. Here, both e-commerce websites using same size selection option and following these buttons and innovation on the right side and image on the left. So in the first or second uh, session, I told you that the left-hand side top, we call them the most focused area. So as we can, even when we are reading a book or anything, we start from left to right. So this is the most focused area. So you have to show them your images or whatever the message you want to give them, and they will scan it easily if it is on left hand side top. So most of these sites have their product images on left hand, and they follow the same structure. They display the item name and the font size, item sizes and delivery options. Uh, in the same layout. Most of the e-commerce websites have this kind of a layout because of that reason, because they want to give you what users expect from their websites or a mobile app. A great example is designing a page with a search bar. Users are accustomed to seeing a search bar near the top of the page. often with a magnifying glass icon. So for another example, even in the design I have opened, I have search bar on top with the magnifying icon. So users are so used to this, especially with the like website like Google's or Bing or any other search engines, they expect search bar to have a magnifying glass and it should be on top. Most of the website have search bar on their navigation bar or even above the fold. Above the fold means in the screen area you see when you are loading a website. So if you hide your search icon or search bar uh, somewhere down, some in the footer or anywhere, it is not a good practice because they expecting it to be on top and easy to access. If a designer decide to place the search bar in a completely new place on the page, it can create confusion for the user. If they want to continue using your site, they have to relearn where the search bar is, taking an extra time. So, uh, like I discussed, so the search bar for this Best Buy website or any other competitor website, they have it on top. Even for the website in Sri Lanka, most of the like e-commerce websites, they have the search bar on top because it is really important and users expecting it to be on top because they can search easily and that is the first thing they will do when they come to your website. It will reduce the extra time they take if you have your search bar in a different place because they have to relearn and every time they come to your website they have to learn that okay, their search bar is in a different place, I have to go here. So that is not a good user experience. You have to follow the same thing that other competitors and uh, other competitors do, and also you have to think about what users are expecting. So you have to maintain that consistency as well. Number four is Miller's law. Miller's law states that an average person can only keep 7 plus or minus in their working memory. Organizing content in a smaller chunks will help users to understand, process, and memorize easily. So even before when we discussing about the typography, the length of the paragraph, we mentioned about this number, the 7. So that is the uh, average number of words that or person can keep in their memory. So if we exceed that amount, they won't be able to keep that in mind. So even if we have lower number of that, we are wasting some space in our screen as well. So this is the number, the your components or whatever you try to tell users, you have to keep that number in mind and always make sure you don't go beyond that. Display information in chunks. This is why it is manageable to users to remember what they consumed. So most of the websites, they have, if you access now the data visualization, they have visualization, the graphs, the pie charts, and also these kind of charts, the Manhattan charts, and also these visualizations are really important for them to grasp uh, the idea what let's say this is about their spending, so how much they spend on different tasks, how much they spend on food, how much they spend on rent, and so on. So they, as they can see when they just by just seeing these kind of graphs, they can easily grab the idea. But if you are giving them too many choices in the first place, it will be confusing. So they will get confused. So what to follow? What should I look at first? So how we can compare these two or for visualizations. So always make sure you give limited amount of information to your users. So it will avoid them to, uh, it will help them to grasp what you are trying to say and also uh, avoid unnecessary cognitive load as well. Toggle keys are limited to 6 in notification panel, reducing the cognitive load on the user. So in the Android phones, when you try to access the settings, uh, they are only showing you these 6 icons. If you want to look for more, you have to slide it and see the other actions. So the idea behind this is actually they're giving simple like most used functions, and if you want to access more, they are giving them separately to avoid the unnecessary cognitive load. Even here, breaking the checkout process into steps and creating spacing for card numbers uh, avoid the unnecessary cognitive load as well. So in here, we are first asking for custom info, then shipping info, and finally the payment section. So they can easily see the and see the contrast between the card number, the name, expiration card, and CVV code. You can also see the placement. So the on by checking their card, they can quickly enter their card number, and if they uh, and also the card name of the card is also in the front side, and expiration days also in the front side. So they have to flip their card to enter the CVV code. So we are adding it at the end. So that process is easier. Okay, we have a sign up form here. On left hand side, we have all the sign up form options or text boxes or select boxes placed one by one. But on right hand side, we have like grouped them together. This might be personal information, this might be the address information, and finally, there might be some interests and what they like to choose. So you can always group similar data uh, to avoid this cognitive load and make the users process much easier for them to follow. Do you have any questions up until now? Okay, next one is serial position effect. This law states that we tend to remember the first and the last item in the series. There are two main concepts involved in the serial position effect. Number one is primary effect, which is the tendency to recall the first item is called the primary effect because we require less processing effort in rehearsing the item. Number two, recency effect. The tendency to recall the last item is called the recency effect because our working memory preserves temporary information. So if I give you like a list of items, let's say I give you list of items with 10 items. Uh, I'm not giving a list, but I will tell you the list. Most probably, most of you will remember the first item because your attention is higher when I'm starting to say the list, and the last item as well because that is how our memory works. So the primary effect is tendency to remember, recall the first item, and recency effect is the most recent, which is the last item I said to you in the list. So in the highlight key information in the beginning and the end while placing the least important items in the middle of the sequence. Okay, now in here we have all the items, all the headings and the call to action button aligned to left side, and also it is kind of uniform, the layout. But in the right hand side, we have the heading in different color, different shade of gray, and we have our paragraph in lighter shade of gray. And whereas the call to action button is on right hand side, it is prominent. So you can easily understand this is the starting point and this is the end point. So when users follow this layout, they will read this first and read these parts and do the action at the end. But even if they don't read this part, don't read this paragraph, it won't be an issue because we are giving the headline, what it do in the beginning, because they will remember the first and the last recent action they will do. So here we have an FS speedometer is on the right hand side and the map on left side in the display. So in here they can see the speed they are going, the gear and everything, and they can see the placement where they placed in the map as well easily. Instagram bottom navigation home is on the left and the profile option is on the right side, and all the least important options are in the middle. So home is on the right hand side, so you can easily follow that, and the profile is on the uh, home is on the left hand side of view and the profile icon is on the right hand side of the user. So the users can easily navigate to those, and they can also remember what icons they want to press. And least important icons such as search or what they like is in the middle. And the create post icon is also in the middle, because most of the time we are not using that application like create post icons. Most of the times we are using home to follow the feed and also try to go to your profile to see what your posts are and so on. Okay, we will take a 10-minute break and we will continue our session. Let's meet at 10:45 your time. Okay, welcome back everyone. Let me share my screen. Okay, we were talking about serial position effect, and we talked about primary effect and recency effect and how we can use it in our UI to get maximum productivity uh, from our users. So this is how the different games and in Instagram using the similar effect. And here, the number one main task relevant information within the user interface. This is actually uh, the presentation app in Mac. So main task relevant information within the user interface. So even if we go to uh, this particular app, the Figma, we have task relevant information grouped in uh, similar interface. For example, we have frame, section, and slice in here, and all the shapes up here, and the pen tool and pencil similar here, and text related. And the plugins, components, widgets in the same. So in that way, the users will be able to navigate through quite easily, and they already have some expectations when they come to your design because they have used some similar applications such as Photoshop, such as other tools such as in Illustrator and so on. So they also have different button placements, similar button placements. I'm sorry. So if we have that kind of button placement in our new application, it won't be much of a cognitive load. So users don't have to memorize everything all over again. They can simply follow their memory and they can use their memory to navigate and do their task easily in particular platform or a software. Even for the website, now we are expecting website to behave the same way. For example, let's take this website. So we expect the foot header to be here and the menu to be here, and also the footer to be down here. So that placement should be there. If we are not doing that properly, at least for the basics, it won't be a good user experience for your users because they have to uh, find out, they have to memorize where should I find these items, where should I navigate, how should I go to contact us page and other pages. So that placement should be there in your website. I'm sorry. Maintain task relevant information within the user interface. So when they click on this particular frame, it will give the page number and the grid lines and ruler and everything will be there for the users. Limit the amount of recall required. Okay. Now in here we have the user has added filters, the sorting chosen by user, that he has chosen the highest rated to display first. And the filters are neutral ride, stability, and 7.5 is the shoe size. So some of the websites, when you want to remove one of these filters, users might have to remove all the filters. So they have to again add the neutral ride if they want it. So in here, we can quickly remove by just clicking this X close icon and continue to navigate and filter, keep other filters that they want. This is Nike website and they have followed that serial position effect rule. And we can emphasize key information in the beginning and the end. So this is Apple website. So in the beginning, they have key information, iPad and uh, small description about it. Why is it uh, good, light and heavyweight? And even in the bottom, they have this iPad image and with the starting price because when person navigate through, they first see this part and the Apple don't want to show them the price because price is quite a lot when comparing to other devices. But when they navigate through, they will tell you the story. Why is this device so important? What is it has when comparing to other competitors? So when you are reading all these devices, you will uh, feel that this price is worth it. So they, in the end, they are showing you the price and some information about delivery, pickup, and financing and support. So emphasizing key information in the beginning and the end. So we were talked about serial position effect and earlier Miller's law and even Jacob's law, Fitts law, and Hicks law. So those things we discussed. Now we are going to discuss about Zeigarnik effect. This happens with all of us. When we have some important task to do and when we forget to do it, we tend to feel bad about it. This is Zeigarnik effect. It states that we remember uncompleted and uninterrupted tasks more than the completed tasks. Okay. So the software developers or web developers know about user psychology because if you take uh, US, there are certain even in the universities they have uh, like user psychology labs. Even in Stanford, they have psychology lab. What their task is to understand user behavior and uh, give software companies or web developers or startups some secrets about how users' behaviors are motivating, how we can make most of money by using these kind of a user behavior. So this is something they use. So for example, in LinkedIn, if you don't complete your profile, it will show this progress bar on top. So every time you log into Instagram, you see this. So you want to complete it and make it go away. So it will be there. It will keep prompting you un until you complete the whole task. Even the step tracker showing remaining step. So if you want to like use a tracking application to do your workout or walking or trekking, so it will show that you should uh, walk this much of a steps and you only walked this much. And you the psychology, like users psychology will tell that I haven't completed this task. So he has this thinking in his mind throughout the day. And in that case, he is going to complete it somehow. Uh, that is how these companies are like bind. We call it hook to their application without even noticing. So they ask us to complete this particular task, then we are trying to complete it, and then even this kind of a tracking application, we are going there daily basis and we're trying to complete all the tasks. So that is their expectation when they are developing this particular project. So that is uh, something you have to think about. I have added some book recommendations regarding that topic in our Google Classroom as well. One is Persuasion. I can't remember the author. And the other one is Hooked, which is about, particularly about this effect. Next one, von Restorff effect. It is also known as the isolation effect. This effect predicts that when multiple similar objects are present, the one that differs from the rest is most likely to be remembered. So if you have highlight elements like call to action to stand out from the rest of the design, it is easily noticeable by user. So if you have this kind of images and one different image, one prominent image, users will remember that when comparing to others. In UI, similar thing applies. If you have images, text, and other buttons and call to action button. If you highlight your call to action button with a different color, especially in here green, it will be remembered, most likely to remembered by users. Okay, so that is some user experience laws that you should consider. There are some more laws if you uh, Google it, and I will share some on our Google Classroom as well. So do you have any questions up until now? If you have any, you can send a message or you can ask. I'm actually thinking about finishing the session little early today. So I will finish it around 11:15. We have 20 minutes. So I will cover the remaining in our next session, and even in the feedback session we are going to uh, do in the 5th week. So moving on, let's see if you have any questions. There are no questions, it seems. Okay, now let's talk about wireframing in UI and UX design. We talked about wireframing roughly in the design process, like when we start with the project, we first have to interview our users and identify their uh, requirement, and then the clients, and also then we have to do the ideation. After we do the research and everything, we have to do ideation. That is when this wireframing part comes in. So a wireframe is generally a monochromic drawing that created in the design phase of design thinking process. It provides a blueprint of the page structure, layout, information, and functions. This in turn gives a clear idea to the stakeholders about the functioning and visual representation of application UI. So as I mentioned, the wireframe is generally a monochromic. So because we are using, don't put so much colors on it. Actually, when I do the wireframing, I don't even use any software. I just use pencil and paper. So it is easier for me to erase and do the changes when users ask me to do so. So it is monochromic and it is very low level diagram. So it provides blueprint of the page structure. We are not putting so much details in there, like button shades and everything. We are just putting the hierarchy of the design, blueprint of the structure, layout, information, and the functions. This in turn gives a clear idea to stakeholders about the functioning and visual representation of application UI. So if you have a good wireframe in place, even before if you start the low fidelity or high fidelity prototype, you can present it to your stakeholders in sense of uh, users as well as clients. You can present it to them and get their ideas even for the wireframe. So it will make your life easier as a designer, because streamlined wireframes, if you have uh, wireframes in your hand, like complete wireframes, it will be easier for you to do the low fidelity as well as high fidelity designs without so much iterations. But let's say you have a very uh, incomplete wireframe, and then you move on to the low fidelity design or high fidelity design step. So then the users will give you feedback. So you again have to change your low fidelity wireframe or high fidelity wireframe. It will take so much time and so much effort, and it will cost so much money as well if you are working on a project. So always make sure you do your wireframe and make complete wireframes without uh, making them incomplete. Why do you UI UX designers use wireframes? It saves time, help gathering feedback, creating accurate designs. So it saves times in the UX process. Uh, in the first lecture, I have mentioned the UX process is an iterative process. So you have to come back and forth and fine tune your designs. So if you have a good wireframes, as I mentioned in last uh, slide, it will save your time in the next steps. So you might take some time to do your wireframe, but it will affect you positively in the following sessions on your UI UX process. It helps gathering feedback, UX design functional testing. So if you have a good wireframe, you can present it to your stakeholders. You can present it to users, you can present it to clients, You can present it to your team members or designers, developers, product owner, and get their feedback and fine tune your wireframe. Rather than fine tuning your final design, you can fine tune the wireframe and save time and uh, move on to the other steps quite fast. Creating accurate designs. So if you have a good wireframe, good blueprint of your designs, how the users should behave, what are the functions, structure, information architecture, and everything in place in this blueprint, we call wireframe. Uh, it will create accurate designs. Otherwise, let's say now you don't think about the user flow when you do the wireframe. Now, one user might be different from the other user. Let's say, for example, we are using banking application. In the banking application, one user, we can let's say he's a freelancer. He want to withdraw some US dollars to his local account, and uh, another user might be a school teacher. He want to get his salary from his school to his bank account, and two different use cases. And if you don't have accurate designs, if you don't, for example, let's say the freelancer, you have to show the conversion rate. This is how much we pay in rupees for dollar. But for the school teacher, you don't have to show that because he's getting paid in LKR. So you have to consider all these things when you do the wireframes as well. So it will help you to come up with a better and accurate designs when we are moving forward with our design steps. Okay, these are different wireframe types. We have low fidelity wireframes, which we call low-fi, and there are high fidelity wireframes as well. So in low fidelity wireframes, they are also known as paper wireframes, which are created roughly. They do not contain detailed grids, scales or pixels, but functions, content, heading, topics present in a raw form without an accurate structure. So this is the one we do using pencil and paper, which are low fidelity wireframes. But in the mid fidelity wireframe, okay, this is low fidelity wireframes. So you can clearly see it is a sketch, and uh, they have written down the process as well. First is level up, and then they will show badges and streak, and then casual finish screen and complete the program. So this is the basic user flow, and these are the wireframes. So these are not very detailed, but all the necessary information they should show in the screen are there. Next, we go to mid-fidelity wireframes. These types of wireframes can be commonly used for communication with the stakeholders and end users. So if you do this kind of a design, you can't present it in presentation, especially with the corporate people. They will ask you for the complete like presentable design. So you can present these to your users or your core team members, but for the presentations or anything, you have to do mid-fidelity wireframes using computer software. In Figma, we have Figma Jam, and even there's a tool called Pencil, and you can use any thing you're familiar to create mid-fidelity wireframes as well. So these wireframes, it consists of uh, grid, scale, and pixel. Hence, they are more accurate than low fidelity wireframes. In the design wise and the placement wise, they are more accurate and presentable to your users. Give me a second. Okay, we talked about low fidelity wireframes and mid fidelity wireframes. So these are mid fidelity wireframes. You can clearly see the difference. All the elements are clear and presentable, and when comparing to this. Then we have high fidelity wireframes. Low fidelity and mid fidelity wireframes are devoid of feature images and written content. So they don't have feature images and written content. They just have these normal text. They make an appearance in high fidelity wireframes. In high fidelity wireframes, we have all the text and all the components in their presentable form. They make an appearance in high-fidelity wireframes with more concrete shape to UI components. This type of wireframe contains the complete blueprint of design and is the most accurate and almost similar to visual design screens without much of colors. So we have to think now. We are talking about wireframes, so we are not adding colors. So when comparing to these sketches, the low fidelity wireframes and then high fidelity wireframes, these are very much detailed. We have the typeface we are using, the image placements, and the typography, and everything is there. But the only thing that lack of is the colors and the images, the rich images. So that is the high fidelity wireframes. Okay, these are some wireframing tools. We can use Figma. We can use Figma Jam as well. This is Sketch, and also this is Balasmic, which is another wireframing tool. You can easily download. Figma is free. Sketch is also have free version. Also, Balasmic also has a free version, and there's another software called Pencil, which is open source and free. Okay. Those are wireframes. Now we are going to talk about the splash screen. Splash screen is something that you can see when you are loading an application, let's say such as Facebook or anything. The first screen that they show up, the usage of splash screen is actually, it has a advantage for the designers as well as developers. By showing users splash screen, they can load all the elements that should be there in their first interface. Otherwise, the users will see how the font face, its typeface is changing, the placements of the buttons, because the server has to make some request. The front end has to make some request to the server in order to load these buttons and the content and everything. So if we have a splash screen in place, it will cover up all these things, and it will show users the perfect image of the UI without showing them the loading texts or anything. The splash screen was born out of the requirement for apps to spend a few seconds setting up before the user can get moving. Keep it simple with a short, elegant animation to present your app. Always remember the 3-second rule. And if you go over, show a loading indicator. So first two things, it is clear. Now the number three, if you using a splash screen, if your application is taking some time to load because it has to make some request to server or anything like that. If it is taking more than 3 seconds, you have to show them the loading indicator. It can be a loading wheel or a loading message or a percentage or anything. You have to send a message, like you have to show the message to the user what is happening in the background. Otherwise, they will confuse and they will close your app and maybe uninstall it later. Load an absolute minimum data from the server, but making sure you have all the info needed to show the next screen immediately. So when we are developing a website or a mobile app, the first page we are showing them, we call it a landing page or a home page. So if you want to show them a landing page with so many elements, such as so many data visualizations and everything, it will take some time for it to load. But instead of doing that, we can create a simple landing page with simple visualizations and very simple, very basic layout, where it can load from the server very quickly with absolute minimum data from the server. In Chrome, you can see the network it in network tab. When you are loading website, it will show up here. So this is not a front-end development course, so I'm not going to talk about it in detail. So when you're loading a website, it will show you the time frame each server request takes and how you can avoid that request by using here. So you can see uh, it in the waterfall, how many milliseconds, how many seconds it is taking to load different components as well as you server request to the server. So you can remove some of them if you want to uh, give like faster responses to your users. Integrate errors into your splash screen to avoid ugly pop-ups. So let's say, for example, you are designing a ride sharing app. So the main mobile function we are using in ride sharing app is location. So users have to switch on their location. So you have to give them a pop-up message. In order to use this application, you have to switch on your location. Most of the apps we are using, for example, let's say Pick Me or Uber, they are not allowing users to load the application without switching on their location. So you have to show that in the splash screen if you have special requirement to run your application. Take this opportunity to ensure your users are running an up-to-date version of the app. And if they aren't, direct them to the stores to update. So you have seen that most of the website or mobile applications, they uh, push updates regularly, especially banking applications, security updates, security patches. So when we try to load the application, it is not updated. They will show the message. You have to update to the latest version to use the application. And then we click on that button, they will uh, like navigate you to the corresponding app store, Apple App Store or Google Play Store. So that message should show up as well. So these are some splash screens for some applications. The first one is something familiar, Uber. Uber just has their logo and very nice animation to immerse you to their application experience. And this is continually changing content. It may be better to load images after the splash screen has completed. So this is another application. They are also using their logo. Shazam integrates their logo into the main interface seamlessly. So it is they are giving uh, these three applications only showing up their logo, and they have some nice animations uh, to show how their application will look like when they load completely. In here, this application, X Confessions, show errors and updates requests directly in the splash screen to avoid pop-ups. So they are not allowing their users to go to the main page. They are showing applications such as if the internet is not connected, they are showing the message, want to retry. And if the software is already updated, they are asking to update the application without allowing users to use it uh, and go to the main screens. So these are some splash screen animations for different applications. This is HQ application. It is actually was very popular in 2019, I think. It is trivia applications where they have trivias in daily basis. So they has like video streaming content where the streamer come online and ask you different questions. So you have to select what is the answer, and based on your answers, they have leaderboard, and the person get more answers correct in a limited amount of time, get the cash prize. So that application is not there anymore because they had some patent issues and so on. So that is one applications where they won't load so many rich content in the background. So the loading took so much time because they want to load the uh, contestant details, the contest details, as well as images, videos, and everything. So that is something uh, took so much time to load. Top reasons people uninstall app. So these are some top reasons not in use. So if you download an app, for example, let's say you are downloading a photo editing application to your phone or a PDF scanner. So it is kind of like a one-time use. You don't use it anymore. You want to scan some certificates and send some email. You just scan it using Adobe PDF or something, and then you deleting it after some time. So that is not in use. Limited storage. Another one, if you are if you are downloading a game or anything and it takes so much space and you want to clear it up, like you want more space in your phone, you will delete it. And excessive advertising. Another thing is if we using a free version of some application, they the only way they can make money is showing us advertisements. So if it has so many advertisements every time when you want to, let's say, play a game. So in order to play a game, you have to wait for 15 seconds and uh, wait, watch one of the advertisements and again play the same game. So it is excessive advertising. So users will get distracted and they will uh, get disappointed and delete that application as well. Excessive notifications. So if they are giving you so many notifications and if they are not giving you the control to limit the notifications, especially if they are sending so many push notifications as soon as someone liked your photo, as soon as someone viewed your profile or anything. Uh, so it is kind of distraction for users. So they will delete that particular applications as well. Confusion, it can come in many different ways. So if the application don't behave the way that users expect, it will confuse the users. So that is another reason they will delete the application. Technical issues. If even if your application has a good UI and very nice interface and color matching and typography and everything, but if it has a very buggy backend and it has a technical issues, it don't load faster, it give inaccurate information, people will delete that application as well. And there are some other reasons as well. Okay, that is it for this presentation. Let me quickly show you the next presentation. So in the fourth session, we are going to talk about uh, this. Figma, I already introduced you to Figma and Figma's Boolean operations, responsive grid layout, auto layout, components, variants, and responsive design. And also I'm going to give you the guidelines for your capstone project as well. So you can start your project on fourth week, and I will give you 2 weeks time for the project. And in the final session, we are going to discuss about your project and I will give you critical feedback where you can improve your design and put in your portfolio when you're applying for a job as well. So as I mentioned, I'm going to stop today's session now, but I will cover up what we missed actually about 40 minutes. So I will add it up to our final session. So if you have any questions, you can ask. I can give you 10 minutes to ask any questions. You can send a message or uh, ask a question. Okay, let's ask one by one. Do you have any questions up until now for first 3 sessions?
No, sir.
Okay. How about Yazir and Purnima? Do you have any questions? Okay. How about Senuri?
No, sir.
Okay. 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 I'm going to stop the session today. So let's meet next week at 9 a.m. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Navinam.